Today, we're going to pull back the curtain on the language that for decades powered pretty much everything Apple did. It's called Objective-C, and it was the unseen engine inside all those iconic products. We're talking the Mac, the iPhone, the iPad, the whole shebang. I mean, have you ever actually thought about that? For the longest time, the answer was Objective-C. It was the native tongue that brought iOS and OS X to life. So when you get to know this language, you're kind of learning the secret history of the devices we all use every single day. So here's our roadmap. We'll start with its huge role at Apple, then see how it's basically the sibling of the classic C language. After that, we get to the really cool stuff, its unique English-like style and how it blueprints apps. We'll finish up by looking at the tools and its lasting impact. Sound good? Let's do it. Okay, let's set the stage here. For the better part of 30 years, a long time, if you were a developer building an app for an Apple product, you were writing in Objective-C. It wasn't just an option, it was the language. And this is so important to grasp. We're talking everything from the simplest little utilities on a Mac all the way to the most complicated, beautifully animated interfaces you see on an iPhone. Objective-C was the bedrock for all of it. It was powerful, it was versatile, and it was absolutely at the center of the entire Apple universe. So, where did this language even come from? Well, it wasn't created out of thin air. It was actually built right on top of one of the most famous, most foundational programming languages in history, C. And you gotta understand this idea of a superset. It's key. Picture this. C is like a classic box of Legos. Simple, powerful, does the job. Objective-C is that same box of Legos, but with a bunch of new, specialized pieces added in. Pieces that let you build way more complex things. That's the object-oriented part. But the coolest thing? All the original Legos still work. Any code you write in C is also perfectly good Objective-C code. It just has a ton of new power on top. Okay, now we're getting to my favorite part. This is the real aha moment with Objective-C, and it all comes down to its core philosophy, be clear. This is where you really start to see the language's personality shine through. This quote just nails it. The people who designed Objective-C cared more about the code being descriptive and readable than anything else. They thought, code shouldn't be some cryptic puzzle. It should tell you a story about what it's trying to do. And that idea ended up shaping how all that software felt to use. And this slide just makes it crystal clear. Take a look at that first example. Okay, drive Corvette, Mary's house. What does that even mean? Is Mary's house where he's going, or is it another car? You don't really know. It's ambiguous. But now, look at the Objective-C version. John, drive car, at Corvette, to destination. There is just no way to misunderstand that. The name itself tells you exactly what each part does. Yeah, it's longer, but it's incredibly, unbelievably clear. Now, this whole philosophy of being clear, it goes way deeper than just the words you type. It's baked into the very structure of the language. And that brings us to the heart of object-oriented programming, using classes as the blueprints for everything inside your app. Here's the best way to think about it. A class is like an architect's blueprint for a car. The blueprint itself, well, it isn't a car, right? You can't drive it. But it defines everything a car is supposed to have and do. It has wheels, an engine, and it has behaviors, like drive or honk horn. Then, from that one single blueprint, you can stamp out thousands of actual, real, drivable cars. Those are your objects. And creating one of those objects is always this two-step dance. It's a rhythm. First, you call allo, that's short for allocate, which basically tells the computer, hey, set aside a chunk of memory for the new car I'm about to build. It's like clearing a space on the assembly line. Then, you immediately call init, initialize, which runs all the setup instructions to make that car actually ready to drive. So it's always allo, then init. That's the mantra. So a programming language on its own is powerful, sure, but what gives it its real superpowers is a great set of tools. And Objective-C's true strength really came from this incredible ecosystem of what we call frameworks, which gave developers a massive head start. You can think of these frameworks as pre-built toolkits full of ready-to-go parts. So you have the foundation framework, which gives you all the basic nuts and bolts like text and lists. Then you've got UKit for the iPhone or AppKit for the Mac. And these give you all the pieces to build a user interface. Buttons, sliders, windows, you name it, it's in there. And something like Core Data helps you save all your app's data. The point is, you're never starting from a blank page. You're standing on the shoulders of giants. So let's bring it all home. What is the lasting legacy of this language? Because even though Apple has largely moved on to their newer language, Swift, the design choices and the philosophy behind Objective-C left a permanent mark. So let's just quickly recap the core identity here. First, it's a superset of C, which gave it that rock-solid, fast foundation. Second, its main personality trait is that verbose, descriptive by design philosophy, clarity above all. Third, it was designed to be really flexible or dynamic, which means it could make decisions and change things on the fly while the app was running. And finally, all that power was supercharged by those amazing Cocoa frameworks. And that kind of leaves us with one final thought to chew on. Objective-C had a very clear personality. It valued being understandable and flexible. So the next time you're swiping through an app, just think for a second about the language it might have been written in. How did its personality, its core ideas, end up shaping the very experience you're having right now? Pretty cool to think about. Thanks for tuning in.